I want to thank you both very much for this. I know it's been short. I know it's been truncated in some ways, but we have about 8 minutes left. I just want to turn to the questions that are coming in, and hopefully we have questions for both. But uh, I guess the first one that I see is from Brother Ibrahim, who says, Salam, amazing presentation, Jazakallah khair. According to some of our scholars in their framing of different realms of existence, they speak of the human being made up of different names of God in different degrees. Is there a way to understand any of the predetermined fixed entities? And what implications does this have on our approach in education? And that's for Dr. Samir.
I've already replied to the two questions directed to me in the chat.
Okay. Um,
Uh,
Would it be possible to give a short answer here? Because I'm not sure if everyone can see or can they see the answers. Maybe they can.
I think they should be able to, yeah, because it's to everyone.
Yep, should be. Should be fine
Yeah,
then.
yeah.
Okay. In addition to that, then, is there any other questions that might be coming in for either Sister Ainur or Dr. Samir?
Okay, there's a question I see. Uh, which author's text would you recommend reading more about Islamic educational pedagogy? I think that's a question for you, Dr. Nadeem.
Um,
Oh, classical authors. Okay, I'll have to send you. I'll have to send the list of that. If you can just email me. Uh, there's a long list. We've compiled a long list of classical authors uh, um, for a project we were doing. One of our colleagues, the Dr. Ibrahim Zain, and a few others, compiled a long list of classical names. So I can share perhaps maybe the list if you email me, inshallah. It's a very long one.
uh, in addition to that, to Sister Ainur, speaking about both classical and contemporary conceptions of Islamic education, how are those conversations facilitated with staff at Ilm College?
I think at certain different levels. So it's pretty much our Islamic education staff that are really coming together. And also, of course, our staff as well. And I think what really will speed this up or really bring in some more excitement, if you like, is when we actually really start digging deep with that inquiry in terms of how our values will actually reflect that as well. So I'd say we're really at the beginning of this journey. And if I could perhaps just really add then the important stimulus paper on what a fantastic resource it really was for us as well, and the list of reading that's actually in that as well. I think just becoming familiar with the meta language is just so important because it really gives that sense of confidence to everyone to be able to pick up that stimulus paper and really understand Islamic schooling in Australia, but also to be able to use that language in terms of where we are. And that's certainly the way we actually, as part of the actual process, have been using or utilising the actual stimulus paper, if you like. Looking at that whole phase of, yes, Islamic schooling going through the establishment phase, the growth and the distinction phase, and just checkpointing where we feel we actually are as a school has really been a very good conversation. It's really helped us a lot in terms of reflecting on our own practices. One of the things that we also that you've noticed in our actual values that utilizing the Arabic language, not just as Arabic, we actually teach Arabic, but how we actually make that language a part of the whole school understanding of who we actually are, that reconnection to faith. Also, I think became a very important conversation for us. And I just think, I guess the next phase that we're really looking at in terms of the stimulus paper is the section about the strategy for Islamic renewal, which is really hopefully going to set in terms of where we see ourselves within that inquiry model for moving forward. So I would probably just suggest that to really think about the actual stimulus paper, its simplicity, and every section in it has really been very helpful for us.
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. Samir, I know that you're answering some of the questions in real time. Did you answer this one by Yusuf Ahmed as well? Maybe we end on that one.
Thank you for the presentation. How and to what extent can we employ pastoral care and education to revive some intelligible ways of unearthing Islamic pedagogy? Yes, so look, I think any use of techniques derived from contemporary practices must be preceded by the person who's employing these techniques must be preceded by a very deep and grounding in classical understanding, Islamic understandings of the soul, classical understandings of psychology, and the faculties, etc., etc. Because unless we have that deep traditional understanding of the inner interiority of the human being, the various levels of the soul, different faculties, etc., we won't be able to critically understand what is useful in contemporary theories and practices and what is not beneficial. So that level of discernment is extremely important because so many practices today that seem on the surface to be harmless actually may be grounded in very problematic assumptions and may seem benign, but actually quite dangerous. So yes, pastoral care, any practices can be beneficial, but it has to be in dialogue with and first through a grounding in classical Islamic training and tradition.
Well said.
Yeah.
Sister Ainur, if we can ask you the final question for the evening. There's 3 questions. I'll combine them into one. Sister Mafaz asks what role the Islamic department has in this journey. But to add to that, Sister Silma asked if you could unpack the process a bit more that you went through. And Brother Asad, I think, brings it all together when he says, what are some of the key ingredients for an Islamic school board and leadership to go from mission and vision, building towards successful implementation with staff on the ground and inside classrooms? So I think, they've all kind of got elements of a similar question in there.
Okay, I'll try my best. There are quite a number of questions, but just in terms of the process, we began, I guess, to begin with, I think it's really important that it is driven by the school board. And this is not just a part of governance expectations here in Victoria or in Australian schools, that the captains of the ship have got to be very aware of which destination they're heading towards. And it really does require not just deep conversations, but just a real effort in this as well to really, when you're determining that vision and mission, that it has got to be driven by school members. And this is exactly the prerogative of school boards, not necessarily what's going on in the day-to-day operations, but let's really set that direction and that destination. And I think that's what's really been a very valuable part of the actual process as well, and something that the board members have really welcomed, though it has obviously not been that very easy and has required a lot of effort. We also engaged a consultant, Junaid Chima, who's highly experienced in strategy and understands the Islamic community context. The most important principle, I think, of the actual process was that it was inclusive and nobody should have felt, our whole principle was that nobody should feel shut out of the process. It should be inclusive and inviting of all. Hence, we actually had a strategy email which was open to everyone, parents, students, staff, to just really reach out and let us know. We actually did also run focus groups right from year 5 all the way through to year 12, student focus groups across all campuses, teaching staff focus groups, non-teaching staff focus groups, parent focus groups. But I think the main elements to our process was really about having those deep and meaningful discussions, which is why the stimulus paper was really important in Section A, looking at those checkpoints of where we actually are. Section C, for example, the reference in terms of, okay, are we really going to be able to achieve what it is? And I think there's so many gems in there to just utilize as to where we were as part of the actual process and how we will actually move forward. And I think another important, or 3 processes or 3 elements, as I mentioned, one, to really be open, not allow anyone to feel left out, ensure that we're actually having deep and meaningful and very honest conversations, which at times means we need to name what's not working, what we've actually got wrong as schools as well, to really be able to move forward. And I think the third really important element as part of that process is to be honest, but to be kind with each other, to really be impactful. So if that kind of, is there any question do you think that's I've left out, Brother Nadeem?
No, I think that's perfect. That's perfect. Jazakallah khair. I
Maybe.
know we're over time. This has been rich. I really appreciate Dr. Samir, Sister Ainur, for your time. You've made us think, both in terms of theory, but also conceptually, but also in terms of practical implementation. So really appreciate it. Looking forward to more webinars for those of you that are on the mailing list. Our next webinar will be on July 16th, inshallah, with Professor Muhammad Abdullah and Brother Abdullah Khan, speaking about our sacred amana, nurturing education, parenting, and community. The recording of this one will be available for those of you that would like to access it. And again, once again, my sincere appreciation for all of you for attending and for presenting. Take care and good night. Assalamu alaikum
بارك الله
wa
فيكم. وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. Pleasure.
rahmatullah.